Okay, the session is now being recorded. Can I ask everybody to mute themselves, please? Please mute yourselves. And we can start the session then. All right? That is wonderful. I will...
Ranu, you're not very audible. Is that only my system or everybody? You're a little soft.
A little louder.
Can you hear me? Everybody hear me?
Yeah, a little louder.
Okay, a little louder, little louder. I can be much louder than that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Acha, okay, please, everybody mute themselves so that I can hand over to Dakshita and she can start. All right? Great. Wonderful. So, we are now 43 windows, which I'm sure is about 55 people. All right? Great. And this is great attendance. So, this has broken the record already. Last time we had just about 50. I think we are now well over 50. So, welcome everybody to the Family Discussion Group third session, Kudwar Diaries. This family is amazing. It has 200 or more people in the family. There are 5 living generations and across many continents, many nationalities, ethnicities, etc. And yet we have such a close bond, which is clear today. This session is an attempt to discover who we are, where we came from, and how we developed into the 12 clans that we are. And but the most amazing aspect of this family is the passing on of core values and principles from one generation to the next. So let's start the exploration with the captain of the team today, Dakshita. Also on her team today will be Amar Veer Sarandas, who I knew as my nephew but didn't know too much about until today, that he is doing amazing work in the Reserve Bank of India. He's Deputy General Manager, working on banking and non-banking regulations. Dakshita has asked me to speak for about 8 minutes or so on the recollections of my father during his early days in Kudwar. I'm not going to speak about my father or my family, but just about what was in his diary. This is not about each of the families. This is about where the family came from and a little bit about Kudwar. And then after me, it'll be Poonam, who will speak about what Asha Jiji remembers from Kudwar. And then it'll be Raju, who will speak about
the memories from my father and my elder brother, a little bit.
Right.
Touching.
Right. I had written it down somewhere.
No problem, Bhaiya. No problem.
Okay. And then it'll be Savira, who will say a few words. And then it'll be comments and questions and answers. So Dakshita, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Ranu Bhaiya. And thank you all the participants and members of this family. Just to tell you that my parents are here today. They are logged in as Ashutosh Mishra. We have taken help of somebody so that my father could hear everything, being the only surviving member of Genfree. So let's start on this brief narrative, the last family journey, an impressive lineage of close to 7 generations now with the Chandan Sovia's grandchild being born. Interestingly, all of us who are here today are speaking on behalf of our parents, whether it's Ranu Bhaiya, whether it's Raju Bhaiya, whether it's Poonam. None of us are speaking first hand, none of us really were around and know really first hand. So what we are doing is that the first part is the little narrative on the history of the family. Most of you must have had access to the sorry, Geeta saying there's an echo. So is it to do with me or is it that others' mics have to be off?
No,
so
if you're moving a lot, Dakshita Masi, just stay still close to the...
Yeah.
There's an echo.
So Is it better now? Yeah. So
Yeah.
what we are doing today is that the first part will be a dialogue between Amar and me, guided through a small PPT with both of us have worked out, and which will take us through the journey of what we are. So Amar, can we move ahead now? Amar? Okay, we see.
Sorry, yeah, Bua, I lost you for a second there. Can I start off with my questions?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, just firstly, a rare opportunity for somebody from the RBI to be asking someone from the ministry questions, but luckily it's my Bua here. So, Bua, one of the first things is that it's always intrigued me where we've really come from. And on another family group, I used to keep asking this question till an exasperated Manju Bua said, we've all come from the apes. So while that may be true, I mean, that may be true for mankind as a whole, but it would be really interesting to know the history of our family. How far back can we trace our origins? And, how far back and how has the journey been throughout that, the origins there?
Okay, so one thing I must tell everybody is that this is an oral account of our family history. Typically, families in North India who had land used to record their family histories through a Shajra-e-Nasab. And Amar has very kindly given an illustration on the right of your screens of what a Shajra would look like. My husband's family has one. It is an 800-year-old family of Delhi. My mother's family, who's joined with Suvira with a common lineage, has one from Amroha, which was a principality given to their forefathers. Tragically, because we are largely a migratory family which has moved all over North India or coming from the other part of India, we don't have any ancestry which predates 1860. Most of this is an oral account, profligate, I would say, a perfect recall of memory by my father.
That's right.
Which was, he's the youngest son of Babu Ramsaran Das, the Gen 2 of this family, as the lineage can be traced. During the COVID times, to overcome the loneliness which had suddenly hit him, he had started writing these memories on pieces of paper, which he would send to me by post. And I have typed them and shared most of them to you. So we can have views that his rendition is purely on memory. So we can perhaps improve on things, but more or less when I have checked this, we have kind of corroborative evidence from historical records. So yes, if we look at where we come from, yes, we come from Lahore. Now the Lahore court was very, very powerful at some stage of India's history. And you can see how that blue line traces our development from the Punjab side to Dehradun. Now, when the 1857 happened, thereafter, the Lahore court actually lost its significance. And a whole lot of people migrated from there to the United Provinces to gain employment. Now, in particular, since our original blood is, or rather you can't say blood, but our societal acceptance is as Bhatnagar castes, we must be aware of the fact that Bhatnagars were very visible in the courts of the various rulers. And their daily bread and butter came from being employees of the court. In fact, they were known for their skills in reading and writing, which is why we still do the Kalam Dawat Puja in some of our households. So Babu Mishri Lal, when he realized that he needed another vocation, he fled from Lahore to Dehradun. In Dehradun, there was a Kaithan Mohalla. I presume Kaithan stands for Kaist Mohalla, where he and his various siblings were given shelter. Babu Mishri Lal was class 5th passed, but he had a mastery over various languages. He was also an extremely keen police inspector. His detective skills were legendary, and we've got records in praise of his detective skills. But once he had finished his tenure as a police inspector and done this and that, he wanted to become a tehsildar, and the government obliged him by making him so. Now, again, he traversed the length and breadth of Uttar Pradesh, from Etawah to Ghazipur to places like that, all of which is like Badlands on today's date, but those days it must have been, the center of a growing United Provinces. And somewhere his skills were greatly recognized. There is a record which speaks of how he managed to solve a case of a Lady Hamilton whose chain was stolen by robbers, and he was able to catch the robbers. There is also a tremendous testimony to his skills in catching thuggies. Thuggies were extremely notorious those days, and Babu Munshi Mishri Lal jumped into a wheat stack to extract 2 thuggies who had apparently committed some major crime. A deeply, deeply devout man, he spent his last days on the banks of the Ganga River, and he had given up eating salt altogether. He was informed that, look, if you don't eat salt, then you are reborn as a snake. But he was able to predict his death. He called his people and he said, look, I'm going to die within 3 days. And prior to his death, he wrote an application to the government requesting them to give his son, his elder son, employment in the government. And thereafter, he left us. So that is the story of the first known origins of the family. Amar, can we move on, please? Next.
So, Bhua, we have our RSD group, and that's named after my great-grandfather, Sri Ram Saran Das. What can you tell us about Sri Ram Saran Das, his life, and his family? My great-grandmother, Mrs. Gulab Devi. What can you tell us about them, and why? And what can why is it that we had Munshi Mishri Lal, who didn't have a surname, and then we have this tradition of having, the surname changing to Saran Das and then Veer Saran Das thereafter? It'll be nice if we can, get some background into that too.
So I'll take the surname question first. Now, the concept of a surname was actually adding a surname to a name was a very British concept. That's Ram Saran Das in his younger days for you. The surname concept was very new. The British had actually started this concept of appending surnames so that they could actually administer in the lines that they thought was most fit, which is the communal thing. But if you check the Shajras, you will find that none of the Shajra lineage carries surnames. However, Babuji was named after, he was called Ram Saran Das, which is obviously a name for a god. And when his 5 sons were born, he gave them the names of the various gods. Raghubir Saran Das, Balbir Saran Das, Mahabir Saran Das, Brijbir Saran Das, and Yadubir Saran Das. Now, he carried the Saran Das, and the first name was that of the god. So I think he continued with the extremely liberal ethos which he came from in not appending a caste surname and thereby not giving a caste identity to the family. Typically, as I will speak later, we'll get to know more about his liberal approach. But well, here he was, saddled in 1900 with siblings, no father, being the main income raker for the family. He had all his siblings to get married off. He had a widowed mother to take care of. And he did that. And along the way, his journey was bringing up his children with love, care, and affection, taking care of a very vast and a very large family of 20, being a fabulous administrator, known like his father for integrity, honesty, sense of fair play, and then of course a very, very, very volatile temper. So if we look at his journey, he was, he had 12 children from this family. He was married thrice. His first wife was older than him and she died. Then he had a second wife from which he had a child. When she died, then he married Srimati Gulab Devi. Gulab Devi came from a place called Mahavan. Mahavan is a very small town close to Vrindavan. Bit of a mess right now. Devi and I tried to go there once, but came away because it was difficult to navigate. She came from an extremely rich family. And somewhere the records of Babu Mishri Lal being there, maybe he knew the family. Obviously, these were arranged marriages. So she came in and she had a sister and a brother. They were very rich. We tried to check out the Havelis of those times, but we find that records state that her brother became a Radha Bhakt and he donned the clothes of a girl and gave away most of the property he had to the devotees. So pretty much he left his wife, he abandoned his wife, and his wife, as some of us would know, Mamiji, was also adopted by Babuji. Look at the kind of absolute broad-minded person he was. That for him, he took on his brother-in-law's wife and also nurtured her and told his children that you have to take care of her as your own. So this picture which Amar has shows a very young Babuji, a good personality, and it has some of the the elder of the 6 children. And if we go to the next slide, Amar, then we would have 1926, where he starts looking a little old. Bibi looks definitely older, and we have 10 children. And we still have 2 more children to come. But that perhaps was a later story, because there is no other photograph, at least available in my father's archives, of the entire family with the 12 siblings and the 13th, which is the sister from the second wife. So that photo is not there. Maybe one of us will find it lying in our records. So Babuji did also traversed all through United Provinces, worked in various places. One of the records, again, which we found about his sense of fair play comes from a very famous story of the Sultana Daku. Some of us may have seen the play, or some you must have seen the movie. Sultana Daku was a Robin Hood kind of a Daku who used to inhabit the Kashipur, Ramnagar, and what is now known as the Orbit area. Or those of you who go there may know that there is one of the stops over there is called Sultan. So he used to rob the rich and give to the poor. But in any case, the British had him arrested, and it was Babuji who gave the final court order for his hanging. And when Sultana Daku was administered this punishment, he just turned around and told Babuji that, look, this was not expected from you. You know that I did no wrong. Now, you will ask, where has this come from? This has come from Babuji's younger brother, who had spent the last years of his life in Lucknow and between Bijbir Tauji and Bade Tauji. And he was extremely close to my father, and that is the time when some of the records were taken by my father. So that was Babuji for you, but when and Bibi for you, but as they moved from town to town, and he was awarded with the Rai Bahaduri title, then he was given the Imperial Service Order, and he was a very decorated and a highly revered officer, which is why when he retired and he found himself with a family of 20 meaning the 12 plus the 2 mothers-in-law plus mommy, plus he had a sister who got married and whose husband had fallen into the dragnet of a prostitute. So she was also brought in back to his core care. And then along the way, another brother-in-law came who had a tongue cancer. Then the sister from the previous wife. So he had this family of 20, and I think he really felt the need that he needed to work. By then, Bade Tauji was settled in. He had moved to Pratapgarh, and Bade Tauji was settled, and Asha Ji had got married. Sheila Bhaji had got married, but pretty much Babuji felt the need. And therefore, because of his high reputation and integrity and power to be a good administrator, his friends had him appointed at Kurwar in the Court of Wards. So this is a copy of the Imperial Service Order. This comes from Basu Bhaiya's collection. Now, so this is, I'm trying to trace the British Civil Service officer. I've dropped a mail to the Civil Service archives. Okay, so now we come to what is the romantic memory chapter of this family, which is Kurwar. Now, Amar had asked me, where do we come from? Do we come from Kurwar? No, we don't. We are very clearly and very sadly so a migratory family. Sadly, because we don't have roots, but fabulous because it gave us all an inherent sense to strive, to struggle, to achieve. And that's what's common in all of us. But Kurwar gave something to the family which perhaps the migratory nature of Babuji's job didn't give, which is a sense of stability. It brought money, it brought stability, and it brought a tremendous settling of the children. Now, Ranu Bhaiya will cover all about the Queen, the Maharani Sahiba of Kurwar. But let me tell you that Papa had particularly wanted me to tell you all that when Babuji moved here, he moved from Gonda to Ayodhya to Sultanpur to Kurwar. It was one hell of a journey. He went by a little bit by Ikka, a little bit by train, a little bit over the road. Somehow he reached Sultanpur. And once you cross Sultanpur, it was a very well-paved road. There were green fields all around. There was the river flowing close by. The kings of Kurwar who had ruled the Kurwar princely estate had been extremely eclectic people. So, so what had happened was that it was, I mean, a little bit it wasn't a very hot favorite with the British administration, unlike Allahabad, which was really the rocking place then, or Lucknow, which was emerging. But well, Sultanpur it was, and it gave stability. Now, what you see over here is the entrance to the palace.
It must be Dakshita. I don't know. No name has come. Now I have to go through all the arrows, and all that.
So what had happened was that when I was posted at Lucknow, Papa had desired that he be taken to Kurwar. Possibly we must have been one of the last visitors because I remember Jaishi Ji telling how Buaji had gone there, and I think Tauji must have gone there. But in terms of a trip down memory lane, I took my father with an assistant and we went there. And would you believe it? Actually, the shopkeepers recognized Papa. So Papa's name used to be Chote Nanne Babu, and there was this very old man, and both of them hugged. And then we went towards where the estate was. There's a little lane which goes to the left. And I had heard grand things about it, but I'm sorry, it was in a terrible state. Our house had been reduced to rubble. I'll say our house because it's a common lineage house. The tree was still standing, which famously Baba Neem Karori used to come and call for Babuji, and Kirti Jiji will confirm that Neem Karori Baba was Babuji's guru. Neem Karori Baba became very famous later on, by the way, and the younger generations will know his name very well because of the association with Steve Jobs and others. In any case, to come back to this, then when you walk down this path, this is the front end, which is the palace entrance, and this leads to a central courtyard. And that central courtyard used to be the hub of the Das family activities, because on Janmashtami, as Papa recalls, there was a lot of activity which used to happen. Can I request everybody to mute their mics, please? So a lot of activity which used to happen there in terms of putting up a jhanki, putting up a cultural show. So while we were there, Papa said, "Arey koi hai?" It's like one of those spooky movies of Mahal and all that. And then somebody came from the top floor and recognized Papa. He said, "You look just like Babuji." And somebody came down and said that the estate is now finished. But that's okay. The memories are over. But one can still hear the sounds of the joy which this estate gave to our family in particular. Let me also tell you that there was another house there which belonged to Lady Hamilton, who was the governess, and that is now in Ateki Chakki. I have not gone back since 15 years. I have no desire to go back because I want to live in the happy memories of how it was. So that, Amar, I think answers some bit of your queries, right?
Dr. Bua, I'm sorry to intrude.
I can't hear you.
Ranu, as host of this meeting,
Right. Got it.
Hello.
Hello. I was just saying that Ranu Talji, as host of this meeting, you can probably mute all the participants except for Dakshita Bua.
Yeah, that is the message he sent you.
How do I do that? I have no idea.
So if you go to the participants
Yes.
icon,
Yes.
you click on that,
Yes.
and then you can just
And
manually.
mute all, right?
Yeah.
But you need to. unmute.
Everybody's muted. But what about Dakshita?
Yeah, Dakshita Masi, you have to unmute Ranu Mama. Just go to her name and
I
unmute.
will just
There you are. I'm audible now.
wait.
You are.
Yes, you are. Okay. Okay, Dakshita, go on.
So Amar, can we have the next picture also, please?
Bhua, what can you tell us about, this was about my grandfather. What can you tell us about my great-grandmother, Mrs. Gulab Devi? So that, I believe that she also was quite a person and she was really the force behind my grandfather. So if you can tell us a little bit about her also, it'll be nice.
Yeah, so Ranu Bhaiya will be covering a lot about BBG. But let me tell you all that no family is ever, a family of this size is never run until the matriarch decides to wheel them together. There are fantastic memories which everybody has documented of her. She was an extremely simple lady, but one who had a great sense of family. And she would run the house with clockwork precision. Imagine sitting in a place like Korwar with 20 people, 2 aged people, a husband who would not eat food until she was there with him in that room. Children were being born. She herself had to go through one birth where she was also pregnant, and so was one of her bahus. But what Bibi did was that she was very stoically taking care of it. Often the narratives you hear, I heard from Munni Buaji, I heard from Papa and from Brijveer Tauji, was that she gave equal love to everybody. Her sons-in-law were as close to her as her sons were. Her daughters-in-law were equally close to her as her sons were. Now, what we need to understand with her is that she gave the support to Babuji from the back. There was tremendous financial difficulty prior to Korwar. And also, you all must be aware that Babuji didn't have any land or any house at the time when he died, because he'd had to get married of so many daughters. And there was such a high sense of principles between both of them. She supported him in all his decisions. Babuji wanted to educate all his daughters. And imagine then, when India was still going through a not very democratic approach to women, you don't find any of my buas, covering their head. Instead, they were all pushing off to Banaras to go and study there. And we also didn't marry within the Bhatnagar community. I mean, some did, but pretty much the first marriage was kicked off without it being a part of the Bhatnagar subsect. So Bibi was a very strong force in that. And my father says that her intention was...
Hello for joining late, Vibha.
Hi, Vibha Ji.
Sorry, disturbing.
So Bibi was the real rock. And she died because of hypertension, and I guess there had been so much of childbirth. But her last express wish had always been that she should die independent. And perhaps she didn't have to see much of life after Kodwar. The testimony to her children loving her so much is that when she passed away at Sitapur, where Balbir platform set up for her with the names of all her sons. So that pretty much sums her story. She came from Mahavan. She came onto this side of India. She did a good job in binding the family. If you're all together today, a lot of it is to do with her. And the simplicity of her expression says it all. So, yes. So we started with one picture with 6, one picture with 10 kids. And this is the last known family photograph taken at Yashveer Bhai Saab's wedding, where all of us could fit into one frame. I doubt very much whether we can still, but pretty much we have everyone there except for Bibi Ji, and who was unfortunately no more. And you can spot many generations, many familiar faces. And I leave it upon each person to identify themselves. But yes, I can spot Gopal Bhaiya, and I can spot, just so many people. Basu Bhaiya, Asha Ji, who was always a very famous beauty of her time, and so many people. So Amar, I hand over to you now. I think we've lost Amar.
Our family tree here.
Okay.
Actually, I have a slightly unstable internet connection, but this is the last slide which has our entire family tree on it, and all the 12 are there. I've only been able to do till generation 3. Going beyond that, I think it'll not fit onto one slide at all. I think we need a full wall for it. But this is our family tree, and I think with that, thank you, Bhua, so much for answering all these questions. And really for getting so much of information and passing this on to us. Thank you so much for that, Bhua. I'll pass it back to Ranu Tauji. Yeah.
So Ranu Bhaiya, it's over to you for the next narration, which is going to be Tauji's memoirs of Kodwar.
Okay, Dakshita, thank you so much. By the way, Dakshita and Amar, that was brilliant. I learned a lot of stuff. Really, kudos to you for all the research work that you have done. I really learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to speak about what my father wrote in his diary. And that's all. I'm not going to speak about him, but I'm going to speak about Kodwar and what his memories were. I just have to tell you that he left Kodwar when he was 11 years old. And he went to study in Faizabad. And of course, then he used to come back for holidays, like a lot of his siblings who were married or working, used to come back and back to Kodwar for holidays and vacations. But I'm going to speak, let's start with Kodwar. What was Kodwar? Kodwar was a village of 300 people. Approximately 300 people, but it was an estate. It was a royal estate. It was ruled by a Raja. And it had, as Dakshita said, lots of agriculture fields around with green peas and chana and sugarcane. And it had the river Gomti running nearby. It was actually a very small place. It is very big in our consciousness, but it was a very small place. The palace, which Dakshita showed a picture of, had very high walls, and that was actually the center of Kodwar. But Kodwar had only 4 pakka houses apart from that. One was where Babuji lived, one was the hospital, one was a doctor's house, and one was a small cottage attached to the palace where the governess of Rani Sahiba lived. So it was as Dakshita said, that Babuji became the manager of the estate. He was appointed by the government to be the manager of the state. And that's how we moved over there. Only the palace and our house had electricity for a few hours in a day. And that was from one single generator that was in the palace. Let me talk a little bit about Rani Sahiba, because that's where the whole story revolves around the palace and Rani Sahiba. Rani Sahiba was a young widow. She became a widow when she was very young. She was of Nepalese origin. The Raja was 60 years old and she was 14 years old when they were married. She was the third wife of the Raja. They had one earlier daughter from an earlier wife who was as old as Rani Sahiba. So when Rani Sahiba became a widow, she had an affair with the British district collector. And there was a daughter, but the district collector refused to marry her. So she was hugely sad, and after that she fell into the arms of her private secretary, a person called Mr. Joshi, who had two daughters. And one of the daughters, by the way, was my father's girlfriend, but we will come to that in a little while. Okay, the palace itself was a huge two-storied building with one single armed guard, and there was a stable with 2 horses, and Rani Sahiba had 3 cars. There were 2 tennis courts, and there was a generator.
Thanks later.
Babuji was 57 when he came to Kodwar, and he got a salary of 400 rupees. And in the 400 rupees, he had to run an establishment with over 20 people. And those 20 people, I'll come to that in a minute. But let me also talk about the palace a little more. There was a governess to Rani Sahiba called Mrs. Hamilton, who was sent to teach Rani Sahiba English by the British. But she found Mrs. Hamilton to be very overbearing. So Mrs. Hamilton resigned. And the private secretary then took over the life of Rani Sahiba, and he lived with her in the palace along with his 2 daughters. And so my father called the private secretary, Mr. Joshi, a paramour in keeping, right? That was the secretary, Mr. Joshi. Mr. Joshi had 2 daughters. They were both adopted by the Rani, and they all lived happily in the palace. One earlier daughter from the Raja was sent away to Bombay, never to be seen again in Kodwar. So Babuji was, as Dakshita mentioned, the sole earner of the family. He was very gruff. According to my father's description, he was aloof. He frequently used very foul language, but he never allowed anybody else in the household to use foul language. No one had the guts to approach him, except for one person, and that was BBG. He was, as Dakshita has spoken about Babuji, he was 18 when his father died, and leaving a family of 5 members to look after, and no one had a job. So he was left with the responsibility of looking after his siblings at the age of 18. Right, and then there were many other people that he had to settle, as Dakshita has mentioned. He had to settle his brother, and he had to marry off his 3 sisters, and so on and so forth. There was, Babuji had 3 marriages, and BBG was the 3rd marriage. Okay, so I will move on, because Dakshita has already covered some of this stuff. He worked till he was 76 years old, and he left behind 200 rupees and the clothes on his back, which he willed to his servant. He had nothing else because he had looked after a huge clan. He passed away at the age of 82 in Lucknow. So he was, the last 6 years, he worked for all his life except for the last 6 years. BBG was the presiding deity of the family and of the Kodwar clan. She was, according to my father, always smiling. Simplicity was her beauty. She was mother to all around her, no matter what the relationship, but she was mother and the central character. She was not educated. She was very intelligent, but she was not educated. And she produced 12 children, one every 2 years, in addition to some abortions. Okay, so that was also mentioned in my father's diaries. She was the cornerstone of the family and a great support to Babuji. Only she knew how to handle Babuji. He was apparently quite an impossible character to handle, and only BBG knew how to handle him. She would serve him food. He would not eat food from anybody else. She would massage his feet every night and talk to him about the day's events. When she passed away, just before that, she was in a coma for 19 days. And she awoke for a brief moment, only to check whether Babuji was warm enough, and after she was told that he was warm enough, she passed away. That was her devotion to Babuji. There were many dependents who were living in Kodwar. There were two grandmothers, according to, my father's grandmother, this is from his diary. One was blind and one was paralyzed. There was a child marriage separated aunt. There was a family who had turned from riches to rags, uncle and aunt and their children. There were two adopted children. So maybe apart from his immediate family, there were 9 or 10 people in addition to the immediate family who were living in the house of Babuji and BBG. The immediate family, as Dakshita has said, were 12 children, 5 boys and 7 girls. When he moved to Kodwar, 10 still had to be settled. And 5 girls needed to go to college, then married. And it was actually one big happy family. I can go into more details, I have them, but it was one big happy family. And according to my father, the biggest contribution of my parents, which means his parents, was to create an environment of togetherness. It was one big, happy, joint family of maybe 20 plus people. Needs were very few. There were charpais in the angan. They were laid out by whoever had to sleep on them, and they had to be removed in the morning. There were no tables. Nobody had tables except one table for Babuji, where he ate his food. My father called himself the product of my parents' boredom. And there were, I guess, 2 other products of the boredom after my father. Okay. Education was very basic. There was a local village school. They all used to sit on the floor with a wooden slate. Only one teacher, appropriately called Master Ji, with a cane. And then after some time, Babuji decided that the younger kids needed some better education. So a home education thing was started with the residential lady teacher. Food, just very briefly on the food, because this is also very interesting. BBG would heat up a kadhai of milk and a glass was served to each of the children. Breakfast was normally parathas or puris. And lunch was served on the ground and the ladies used to serve. BBG and the ladies of her generation would eat in the kitchen. There was a Brahmin cook, I believe he was called Thakur, and food could not be touched by anybody. If anybody else touched the food, the ladies would go hungry. Everyone was a vegetarian. No onions or garlic as well. But there's a slight twist here, because the first person to become non-vegetarian was my father at the age of 9 or 10. This was because his girlfriend, one of Mr. Joshi's daughters, in the palace on a dining table, passed him under the table a small piece of fish. which he ate. and then he converted to becoming a non-vegetarian, and till the end, until he passed away, he enjoyed his mutton curry rice very frequently. So the first non-vegetarian of the family was my father. Kudwar he described as an oasis in the desert. Dakshita has spoken about the fields of pea. One other thing he mentioned were the mangoes that were plenty, and that was a big attraction. Once in a while, some boat picnics used to be arranged by Rani Sahiba on the Gomati. There was a big boat that would be fitted with an awning, and there were plenty of eats, and this was one of the great delights of the kids in Kudwar. My father, and I'm now reading his language, I was temperamentally very romantic even at a young age, and would often go down the river and dream of my girlfriend who was away in school. I think the older generation knows who he was talking about, and so on. So, and then he left Kudwar at the age of 11, when Babuji felt that he and Urmila Buaji needed some more formal education. And so my father was sent to Faizabad, where Bade Tauji was working, and Urmila Buaji was sent to Banaras in 1937. The family stayed in Kudwar for 9 more years, and this is where he stopped his account. So that is where I'm also ending. There was, I hope this has given a little bit of glimpse of how life in Kudwar was. Dakshita, back to you.
Ranu,
Yeah, Vishu Bhaiya.
you want me to supplement what we discussed this morning?
Maybe in the comments and the questions and answers, Vishu, please, okay?
So that's a very interesting account, because Ranu Bhaiya brings a Tauji. I've read that account, and it actually has a lot more to it. And I like that bit about him breaking a lot of rules. So we have another first-hand account. We had actually also requested Usha Gigi to join in, but she couldn't because of network issues. But we have, luckily for us, Asha Gigi here. And Asha Gigi, for Asha Gigi, Poonam is going to, Asha Gigi's account is going to be narrated by Poonam. So over to you, Poonam.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Thanks, Dakshita. So with Mummy with us, we hear of Kudwar all the time. Day in and day out, it's oozing out of our ears, it's oozing out of our systems. She relives every moment, every memory in Kudwar. So from her accounts, life in Kudwar was nothing short of a royal existence, with Rani Sahiba, her entourage, her palace with a grand carpeted staircase, liveried attendants, sprawling gardens, tennis court, badminton court also, according to her. And she says there was a swimming pool too. And she says family members, especially the seniors, swam in the pool. And their own home, she says, was nothing short of royalty. In the absence of electricity, the traditional pankha kept them cool, you know, the ancient pankha made of fabric. It worked with a pulley system operated by a person deputed to just pull the fan. Every room, she says, had a fan. She remembers the dining table as a huge dining table with just Babuji sitting at the end of the table, Bibi by her side, feeding him. And this was one time when no child dared enter the room, when Babuji would be sitting to eat. Only Bibiji would be by his side, fanning him with a hand fan. And of course, she never sat at the table, as everybody said she would sit in the kitchen where the Brahmin cook would serve her. Bibiji, Mummy says, had such an impressive personality that when she and Rani Sahiba would walk together, many a time she would be mistaken for Rani Sahiba. That was the sort of personality she had in her simplicity. Mummy also remembers a swing in the compound of the house where all the grandchildren played and frolicked away to glory. you know, when she reminisces, it's like she's still there. She's still living those days. She says when fruits came, they came in abundance. Every time we sit down to have a tarboos or kharbuza, we never hear the end of it. How they would come in laden in bullock carts, and they would be stored in a room which would be just filled with watermelon and muskmelon from the floor to the ceiling, she says. She says that was the kind of abundance they lived in. And Babuji would organize tutors for the grandchildren. During the vacations, the children and grandchildren would be visiting. And Babuji would make sure that they were all taken care of. So there would be tutors for English, she says, for Hindi, for dance, Hindustani classical music, the vocal music. She says even tabla for that matter. And not only that, Rani Sahiba celebrated festivals with a lot of fanfare. She has distinct memories of Holi and Diwali being celebrated, and Rani Sahiba gifting them with saris and dresses for the children. And she also has memories of Bibi's frail old mother, her Nani. She remembers the Dadi and the Nani. But what she remembers of the Nani is that she was weak in the eyes and she was blind. And she used to play the khartal. You know, she used to always have the khartal with her, and she used to play that. And children, she remembers, were taken for joy rides in ikkas. They seem to have really had a rollicking time together, all these grandchildren together. Cars and orderlies were used by Babuji. There were 2-3 cooks in the house. There was a full-time sweeperess Dulharia. There were women who gave them massage, full-time barbers, and nayans for manicure. Mummy remembers them all very, very clearly and very vividly. There was no electricity, there were lamps. There were no taps also, but they never missed any running water thanks to this boy called Jhingur. He used to draw water from the well and carry hot water and cold water on his shoulders. He must have had sagging shoulders, catering to the needs of all the numbers that he was with.
I used to have.
There was a 24-hour tailor who was trained by the Britishers. Babuji used to make sure that clothes were stitched for all the grandchildren. They wore coats and jackets, and they were always very well turned out. There was a halwai called Mishri Lal, Meva Lal, sorry. He used to make hot jalebis and imartis and gulab jamuns, golgappas. He used to carry chaat and mithai in big, big thals. They used to again come in, you know, in abundance, considering the numbers he was dealing with. Sounds like another world altogether. And it's quite evident, as we all know, how Babuji ensured that his food was well provided. What a personality, with the calm BBG quietly supporting him. Mummy can go on and on about her memories, but this is what we just compressed for the benefit of all of us. Over to you, Dakshita.
Dakshita, can I just interrupt for 1 minute, please?
Yes, please.
Vishu had a very amusing tale about the food in Kurwar. So Vishu, briefly, could you go ahead with that, please?
Unmute Vishu Mama. Vishu Mama, unmute, yeah.
From a paper written by Bijmi Chachaji titled Farewell to Kurwar, where he recounts some hilarious episodes which he shared with us. And here is an interesting episode. I'll just read it out from the paper itself. Sitting in the courtyard with the family for lunch, my mother had asked special khilwa urad dal to be prepared, our favorite. When it was getting late and the dal's flavor overwhelming us, my mother shouted, "Thakur, why are you delaying serving us? Hurry up." Thakur was our general cook. He replied in his typical village language, "Mataji, मैं क्या करूं? उड़द की दाल में मिर्च फटफट कर रही है, और घी की पट है."
Or ghee?
He meant that the full red chilies which had been put in were quarreling with each other, falling on their sides. They were not listening. 15 minutes later, he made the chilies settle down and we had a hearty meal, laughing all the way at the hilarious description of the fight. The end.
So that's a thanks Vishubhaiya, and thanks Poonam and Asha Jiji mainly. Now what we need to do is to move a little bit away from Kurwar and get first impressions from people who joined this family. And may I invite Suvira now to give her early impressions and the view she had, because for all of us, we feel we are really good and fabulous and cohesive and bonded and blah this and blah that and phalari aloo and all of that. But for an outsider, perhaps it might be a little overwhelming.
Can you hear me, Dakshita?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, then let me give one example which only I am privy to as far as Kurwar is concerned. I was born in a little kothari, and the doctor who delivered me was a dai. There was a man standing outside the kothari. The moment it was known that a son was born, he had to put up his 12-bore double-barrel gun and fire 2 shots in the air. Wow. So I may be the only person for whom gunfire was fired at birth. Wow. Now you press on with your rest of your stories while I exit. Okay?
It's so nice to have you in the group. I requested.
Okay, beta. All the best.
So, Suvira, can we hand over to you and let's move on to somebody who the family has assimilated. We often forget that Suvira is not a is not from just one of us, because she is one of us now. So Suvira.
Yeah, thank you, Dakshita. So I must warn all of you that Dakshita rang me up and said, "Tum kuch bolna, zyada burai mat karna." And I think I can take liberties with Dakshita because we're related from the Mathur side of things.
Yes, no doubt.
Plus, I don't know whether you know that we were in school together. Of course, I happen to be her house captain in Loreto Convent, Lucknow.
Yes, of course.
And we have a lot of people from Loreto. So her questions to me were that I should talk about how, as a new entrant, how I felt. Now, new sounds really strange considering we've been married 38 years. But yes, in 1981, which is when I first encountered the family, and Ranu Chacha, the first people I met were Chachi Ji and Brijbir Chacha. The first impression I got then, or even a little later, was one word, and I do not mean it in a derogatory way, and that word was formidable. What a formidable family. I mean, look at the sheer size. Look at the names. I mean, I was going to get married to somebody called Chandraveer Saran Das, which was, quite a formidable name. And I have this wonderful Chacha sitting there in front of me, lovely man, but with a very formidable name, Vishwaveer Saran Das. So it was formidable. It is formidable for any person to come into such a great family with, such a lineage. Everybody was so well placed, and it was crazy because my parents seemed to know everybody in my susral, whereas I didn't. And Chand was of no help because he knew no names. I think even now I'm much better than him as far as all of you are concerned. So it was huge. It was, but as I said, I only mean it in a positive sense. I was welcomed into the family the first time I went to Bombay. I went to Bombay for training. This is before we got married. And I had not met Daddy and Mummy, my parents-in-law, before that, because I had been approved, not by them, but by Chachaji and Chachiji. And like Dakshita was mentioning, there was no embargo on being a Bhatnagar or being a Kayast or anything. So all that was irrelevant. And I remember my parents were teetotalers. And when I reached Bombay, Hyderabad house, my father-in-law opened a bottle of red wine. And I honestly didn't know what to do with it because I had never drunk red wine. So I said, wow, this is something. And really, really forward-looking, Daddy and Mummy and all the rest of you people. So there are 3 F's that I would like to describe my entry to. One was formidable. The other was forward-looking, so open, so welcoming. And of course, I think this I genuinely mean. I've said it even then and I say it now, absolutely fabulous. I was welcomed. I think the only person senior to me in the family I can see is Shantanu Bhaiya of our generation. And, I had really wonderful memories before we got married. I used to make a lot of boo-boos with names. I must tell you this story if you give me half a minute, Dakshita. I got this this is the days of letters, and I got a very lovely letter from Kirti Bhuaji, welcoming me into the family, and it said, lots of love from Kirti, Parul, Bebu, and Ruhi. Now, the only thing I knew was that Chand had a bhua called Kirti, and that's it. So I had no clue whether Parul was the daughter or Parul was the the husband. So I said, thank you and lots of love to Parul. I made all sorts of boo-boos, but all these were forgiven. Phupaji is here at this space. So it's been a great time. I've had, I'm very proud to be part of this family. And I think so are all the others who are here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Subira. That's very nicely put. Makes us feel extremely inclusive. Now we come to Raju Bhaiya. We have Madhur Bhabi coming on a little later for a brief minute, she said. But Raju Bhaiya, final words from you, please.
Well, let me first congratulate all of the people who have talked today and given some very, very interesting insights into Kurwa. I think I was an accident. I was born very, very late, probably unexpectedly. But I have also learned a lot of new things from this meeting. I will not take more than maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes. My only intention to speak is not exactly to sum up, because nothing gets summed up in Kurwa. I mean, so many years, so many decades. I think every decade and every year has its own story. I will add some new things later. For the time being, I would like to ask Amar, if he is still there with us, has he gone through this booklet? Amar, can you see it?
I still have it. Hello?
Yes.
Raju Chacha, I have it. I have a copy of this booklet. It's made by Taiji. I have a copy of this booklet.
Exactly. This booklet was made in about 20 years ago. The last entry is of 2005 of 2 children. At that time, children. One is Paras, right? And the other is, where is he? Yeah. So Paras is one and another 2005. So this booklet has got a lot of information. That's what I wanted to share with the entire family, that Nalini Bhabi did a tremendous job, and she has compiled this booklet which requires to be updated. So I'm taking this booklet in this forum because I want all of us, including Gen 5, as Ranu Bhaiya said, and Gen 5 also has to do a lot of additions because 20 years have already passed and this requires updation. So I request the seniors like Ranu Bhaiya Of course, we are all there to help you, Bhaiya. And Nalini Bhabhi has done her job. So it's the progeny now, the senior progeny now, which takes care of this particular family booklet, Who's Who. So this is one thing which I wanted to share with you, Aman. I'm so happy that you've got it. Now, another thing I would like to tell you that the generation one, I would say the generation two, if we are taking the first generation as our great-grandfather, then the memoirs and recollection of Kurwar by Brijbir Chachaji and Yadubir Chachaji, they are so good. And to add to that, since a lot of people would not be knowing about my father, who was number 2 in the family, there is a memoir which has been written by my elder brother Basu Bhaiya about Bapaji and his background, which I would like to share at some other forum of this particular group. And in the same memoir, he has also added, Basu Bhaiya has also added his own memoirs and the family. And that's a very, very interesting insight, let me tell you. And he was also in Kurwar. In fact, the people who are still alive from Kurwar, led by Asha Bibi and Usha Jiji and Basu Bhaiya, and maybe some 2 or 3 more. I'm sorry, Veena Jiji, if I recollect correctly. So I would like that everybody should be able to give some insight, like Chachaji, Yadubir Chachaji and Brijbir Chachaji. Some insights should come from them. And you'll be surprised that Jayashri Jiji, who also visited Kurwar some time back, she has made a terrific recollection of Atam Prakash Pupaji and Nirmala Buaji's times, and very, very interesting anecdotes. I have edited that version for Jayashri Jiji, and they are ready, to put this into the, compile this. So I would request Anu Bhaiya that we should all have a compilation of the family history, because at some stage or the other we do require a booklet. We are 230. We were 238 when this booklet was published. I think now we have crossed 250. So I would request everybody to come forward and give his or her write-up about whatever family they belong to. So this was a small sum up which I wanted to express, and I will look forward. Any assistance from my side, I am ready to offer it. So thank you very much once again for giving me this opportunity to sum up the proceedings. Everybody was brilliant. Thank you.
So thank you so much. And that's a great idea to take it on. Chand has been pushing for it for a long time. And I think you've concretized the thought which Chand had and said it openly. So now we move on to any queries anyone may have, any more historical evidence, anything. Suvira, are there any specific requests which you can tap?
Yes, there was a request from Madhur Chachi. So Madhur Chachi, if you could unmute yourself, please, and speak.
Yeah. So my Kurwar's quick story brings in another perspective, and it's based on literally on strange coincidences. So my mother, whose name was Kamla Verma, at the young age of about 15 or 16, actually went to Kurwar. She had gone there for the wedding of her brother, Madan Mama, to Urmila Das, the sister of Brijbir Saran Das. Wow. And she told us the story that while she was there in Kurwar, the family, I don't know whether she went for the wedding or she went post-wedding or whatever it was. And Madan Mama, incidentally, her brother, Gopal Bhaiya and Vinita Jiji are the children. So while she was there, she said that, the whole family and all the brothers and sisters, everybody got together and they were enacting a play called Krishna. And Mr. Brijbir Saran Das was given the role of Sudama. And now in the play, there was this highly emotional, dramatic homecoming scene of Sudama, who'd been away for many years, was returning home, and his wife, Sushila, was sort of waiting at the door of the kutir, and she saw him coming from a distance, and she ran sobbing towards him and touched his feet. So my father-in-law, sorry, he was not my father, Mr. Brijveer Sarandas, then went to the director of the play. I think it was Kamla Bobo. My mother used to call them Kamla Bobo and Sheila Bobo and all that. And said, ki, bhai, mujhe to Sushila ka role aapko, nobody's taken their names, but the two sisters were, I think, Baijanti and Lavanga.
Yeah, yes,
I don't know which one he wanted the role to be given to, but he said, ki, ye role Sushila, Sudama's wife, to inhi ko jayega. So Kamla Boji gave him one dart and said, bilkul nahi, sawal hi nahi uthta hai. And he made one of the sisters or cousins or somebody, Sudama's wife, much to Mr. Brijveer Sarandas's disappointment. Now, the strange coincidence is that who would have known a 15 to 16-year-old girl in Kurwar, her daughter would eventually come as a bahu to Brijveer Sarandas's house, who is also from Kurwar. I mean, talk about strange coincidences. So, I mean, so there was a connection even before, anything happened. And I'm sure that they're all sitting up there together and listening to this conversation and reminiscing and laughing away together. So, and Gopal Bhaiya, Gopal Bhaiya, you might be able to add something to this, but so therefore Gopal Bhaiya is and Vinita Jiji are my cousins from my mother's side, and they are Ranu's cousins from the father's side. So that's a new perspective for the next gen to know about.
Great.
It's so nice of you to have covered that episode. Yes. That Kamla Buaji has shared this with me also, what you just said.
Very nice.
Okay, Suvira.
Akshita, there is a question from Shantanu Bhaiya wanting to know the years that Babuji was in Kurwar. I think you have answered it, but if you have that.
Yeah. So he was there from 1931 to 1946. As I said earlier, that gave him a fair amount of stability, because before that he was all over Gonda, Ghazipur, this and that. And so this is an important phase of his career where he stayed for that close to 15 to 16 years in one particular place.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think maybe Asha Bhua, Veena Bhua could answer these questions, because it says, Namita wants to know whether the family Shadi songs date back to Kurwar.
So I have to tell you one thing here, which I could not, yes, I will wait for the others also, but Papa has written, and I shared this with Neetu Bhabi and Suvir, that Kamla Buaji and Mahavir Tauji were great singers, as we know. Actually, they were all great singers, but more than others were these two. And they would lead from the front, and they would kind of just sit and exchange notes and tones. And Bhagat Saran Phupaji had visited Kurwar then, and he heard Kamla Buaji singing. And the marriage got fixed there and then. He gave a ring and he said,
Great.
A lot of the songs we sing, whether it's Mangal Sab Saath Saaj and Dulhin Saji, which we last heard Munni Buaji sing so beautifully, and a lot of other songs were definitely composed there. And I think if others want to supplement.
Yeah, Dakshita, I just wanted to say that, of course, the references to the wedding songs, but I think I mentioned in my write-up that I had to put up on the Das group, that every evening there used to be, as far as I remember, that was small, there used to be a singing session there. Wow. Every evening in Kurwar. So it was, we used to sit in the so-called lounge or drawing room as soon as we entered, if I remember, at the age of 7. But the vivid memories are really vivid. So these sessions used to be almost a daily feature. In the evening, we all used to sit together and there would be a singing session. So that's a big, I think the talent goes back that far. That's what I wanted to say.
I have a question. Dakshita Mausi or Ranu Mama, was ours a pakka house? You should have 4 pakka house. So this one was a pakka house.
So there is in the chapter on Kurwar diaries which I had circulated. Papa has written about the house. Now, when the house which was allotted to Babuji was a very large 7-roomed house, high ceilings, stone floor. Typically of those times, there were no curtains, and you walked in, and then there was a little large living space. Then there was a eating place. On the right and left of that eating place were rooms. Typically, toilets in those days were outside the house. Similarly, the cooking area. Then you walk further around, then there was a little veranda where Bibi used to sit on the cut, and that is a memory which I remember Munni Bhaji telling me how she used to dole out jalebi and doodh. And then further down you went, then the 2 old ladies used to sit in one room. So yes, it was a pakka house. In fact, it was constructed by the grandfather of the Raja of Kurwar. But it's unfortunate, and Babuji's court was adjacent there. But it is unfortunate now that it is in ruins. And at this note, may I point out that my parents are here. They are visible to whosoever can see them.
Wow.
These are his memories. And if you see Y.S. Das, he's there.
Yeah.
And they are hearing everything. And I think it's a very great moment for me, because I have only been the Ganesh to his script. He has written, I have only put it down for all of you to capture the memories.
Namaste.
Chacha ji, Chachi ji, namaskar.
Namaste.
You can see them smiling, and that's it. So, yeah.
I just wanted to ask one question.
Tell me.
Earlier, that Mr. Mishri Lal, my great-grandfather, he fled from Lahore.
Yes.
I was wondering, why should he flee? Was there some danger or threat?
So when 1857 happened, Vishu Bhaiya.
The United Provinces, relocation has a different connotation, but saying that he fled, I couldn't get as to why he should have.
So there was, see, again, historically, we need to go back into a particular time frame which residents of Lahore and others were facing then. The issue is that when the Lahore court was dismantling, and there was that's a different set of history. It was a mass movement by a lot of people from there. And they were fleeing because history bears testimony to the fact that post 1857, the British clampdown was very high, and particularly on the court. Now, Papa's memory says he fled. Possibly it is corroborated by historical evidence that a lot of people did flee from Lahore to places which were now emerging as the new hubs post 1857. Typically, it was United Provinces, it was Kolkata, where you also see a lot of caste migration, Chennai, where actually Babu Mishri Lal also spent a few years. So the sense of fled comes in the historical context.
Okay.
Akshita, what was the origin of the word Bobo?
That I have no idea. I mean, I have frankly no clue. And that's something perhaps I'll ask Papa when I meet him. Sorry about that.
Veera, can I clarify one doubt of Amar? One more doubt. He said the name, how did the name Das came in, at the end? Actually, let me tell you, my father told me that the Babuji was called Babu Ram Saran. And from Babu Ram Saran, when he was conferred the title of Rai Bahadur, he added the surname of Das, and that continued for his children also. So Babu Ram Saran became Rai Bahadur Ram Saran Das. Das was an epithet or a suffix which was added when any British person used to give some kind of an award to any of the Indian employees. So that was just, Das meant a knave, basically a knave. But that was not the intention. Das was a very nice sounding this thing, suffix. And so Babu Ram Saran became Rai Bahadur Ram Saran Das. So that is a version which was given to me by Papaji.
Great.
Can I just quickly say something?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
please.
so Poonam was talking about that kotri full of fruits, karbuzas and whatnot, whatever mangoes or whatever it was. So my sister Asha Didi, I think she forgot to mention to Poonam. So this she had told me earlier, where we had, whenever we'd been meeting and talk about Kurwar, she especially told me of this, that her love for kharbuzas began as a child. She used to just hang around that kotri with kharbuzas. And one day, of course, Sarla Mausi used to give her tuition. Like so we had spoken about the children being tutored and all that. So one day, she just got, she forgot, she just continued eating those kharbuzas after lunch. And there's Sarla Mausi waiting, where is Asha, where is Asha? And she took her around and she found Asha digging away at the kharbuzas. She said, you don't forget to eat kharbuzas and you forget to come for your tuition. She got a big scolding and she was taken up very strongly by Sarla Mausi, imagine, who was in charge of her. This Asha Ji told me herself.
I wanted to add anything else. One line very amusing. I think the person who is to bring water, वो अपना वो जो होता है ना रबर की चमड़े की
leather,
उसमें पानी लाते थे किश्त, हाँ बिश्ती. So his name was Jhingur.
Jhingur, yes.
You remember, Veera?
I also want to add something, Suvira, whenever you allow me.
Please, please.
Yeah, so what I'm adding is what my father shared with me. Munni Buaji was born after him. So my grandmother, Badi Mummy and Baby Ji were pregnant at the same time. And you know, Badi Mummy had fever for 10 days. So my father was breastfed by his grandmother. So, you know, whoever's breast was available used to feed the children according to my father. It was all part of the same family reckoning. And my father also said that, you know, the mangoes were kept in baltis of water and they just, they had chusni arms and they used to chuso and chuso and chuso. And then, you know, they were given cold milk after that, taki pet kharab na ho. And rabdi and jalebi were also an everyday phenomenon. These were things he said. And one important reform which Babuji did, which I've put in the chat box, is that all the Buajis, 7 of them, were all married off without dowry and with only 2 saris each. And they were married to men in top positions. And this was something which Babuji upheld as a principled stand. Thank you.
So I think we are kind of running out of time, Ranu Bhaiya. I think it's been a fabulous session. We'll have a recording of this available.
We do.
And I'm so grateful to everybody. We've got history, we've got memories, we've got sentiment, but we've also got to know the quick fix which binds this family together. So
don't go anywhere yet. Don't go anywhere yet, everybody, okay? But yeah, exactly. Continue, Dakshita. Dakshita, are you done?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. Vishu Bhaiya, I can't spot Bhabhi anywhere. Is she there?
Yes, yes, very much, yeah.
Okay, Bhabhi, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Bhabhi is happy that we are from Lahore and traditionally we should know Punjabi. No?
May I say something?
Yeah, Kirti Ji.
Just 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to recount one incident.
Yeah, Kirti, go ahead.
You know, I go back down memory lane to 1958 or 59, when in our dining room, seated were Balbir Tauji, my father, and our grand uncle, Shri Harsaran Das. He also had a temper like his brother. And I remember Balbir Tauji was asked a question by Chacha ji, that is my grand uncle. कह रहे बलबीर, जरा रेडियो से पूछो टाइम क्या हो रहा है? These two brothers, they found that very funny, and they burst out laughing. And I was so happy to see them at the other end because they got the pasting of their lives. They got it big time from Chacha ji.
Kirti, you wanted to say something.
I don't know how much it's true, but I was told by my parents that I was a reincarnation of BBG.
Oh, wow.
I don't know whether it's true or not, but this is what my parents told me, because the night I was born, Mummy was in the hospital and Papa got a dream where BBG came in his dream and she said to him that, Ranbir, I am coming to you and you will have a daughter. Until then I was not born. You will have a daughter in a few minutes. And
मैं डॉक्टर चाचा जी बोल रहा हूँ. मैं डॉक्टर चाचा जी बोल रहा हूँ.
बोलिए.
What a pleasure it is, and everything what I had written was 100% correct. It was not only oral, it was real. I have come across everything myself seen. I adore every relative of mine at this age of mine, at this age of mine. I am just to all good life, all of you, and I'm sure that after me, someone of you will take over charge as the senior most and will carry on the family traditions. I hope Ranu and Premveer will follow it to the extent. Thank you very much, all of you. I am grateful to you.
Thank you, Chacha ji.
Thank you.
Oh, I
Chacha ji.
also want to
Brilliant.
join the group.
No, 1 minute. Sorry, Kirti Ji, you got interrupted. I'm so sorry. Papa came at that time.
Hello. Hello.
But Kirti Ji, please let Kirti Ji finish, please. Hello. So Kirti Ji, you were mentioning that you were a reincarnation of BB.
Oh, I don't know. But this is what my parents told me, because the night I was born, Mummy was in the hospital and Papa had a dream and BBG came in his dream and told him that I am going to come here to this earth as your daughter and you call her Kirti.
Okay, I see.
Please name her Kirti.
Wow.
And apparently after 10 minutes, he gets a call from the hospital in the night which says that daughter born and please proceed immediately.
Wow.
So I don't know how far it's true, whether it is true or not true. And that's why I was told that my buas used to really pamper me and love me because they really thought that it was my mother, it was their mother who was here as a small baby. So God knows what it is, but it's one of the stories that I thought I'll put into this.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Dakshita, should we?
Yes.
Vibhaji wants to say something.
Hello.
We'll have last words from Vibhaji Ji.
Yes.
Sorry for joining very late because I came to know about these conversations and meetings very late. But from now on, I will also be joining in the conversation.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
And I loved listening to all of you, but I started very late. And only very few things, one or two I will tell you that the earliest remembrance I have of Kurwar is when I was very young. Preeti, Meera and me and Veena Gigi. 4 of us were there at one time. And we had a very big tree there in the lawn. on which there was a jhula on which we used to julo, and the mummy had embroidered frocks for all of us. At that time, it was only for your own child. All of us, Meera, myself, Preeti, were given the same kind of clothes. We shared the same kind of clothes and frocks, which mummy used to embroider.
ये फैमिली हिस्ट्री की मीटिंग है जो हम अटेंड कर रहे हैं, तो
बीच में भी बोल रही है next time I will join when you are having a meeting, because now I think it is very late.
So,
Okay.
So, Dakshita, can I
नहीं, हमने तो वही लिंक
Okay, so listen, family, this has been such a wonderful session. I think we had more than 55 or 60 people in the session. So thank you so much. But before you go, I would like to announce the next 3 sessions. All right, please just listen to what the next 3 sessions are. On the 18th on the 4th of October, there'll be a session called U-shaped or V-shaped economic recovery. This will be led by Madhu and will be joined by Alok Sheel, and they have to find other speakers in the session. This is on the 4th of October. On the 18th of October, we have understanding the power of social media. This is a very topical subject, understanding the power of social media. This will be led by a Gen 4 gentleman called Jayant. Okay. And on the 1st of November, we will have a session on family authors. This will be led by my daughter, Trisha. And then we will have on the 15th of November, a session called Eating Healthy, led by our famous Michelin star chef, Suvir Saran. So these are the next 4 sessions. Of course, reminders will go. But thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful session. Thank you, Dakshita, for a humor.
Thank you. It was amazing.
Chacha ji.
Thank you, Dakshita.
Chacha ji. Thank you for joining, Chacha ji. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dakshita. Thank you,
Nice to
Ranu.
see everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Dakshita, you were
Bye.
brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye.
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 Bye, Ranu.
Bye. Bye.